Ladies and gentlemen, He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. And it's your boy Icon with a Netflix TV review for you, going over that He-Man, Masters of the Universe, Revelation. See, I forgot I forgot about this series because this is actually a part 3. When the first two parts came out, I believe it was like Revolution. And when the first two parts came out, the actor who played Mon-El in the Supergirl TV series, he was the voice of He-Man. Mark Hamill played the voice of Skeletor, who did an awesome job. And it was a very good series. It was very adult, like in the very beginning. I wasn't too sure about it when I first started watching it because it was very Teela heavy in the beginning. And although I was a fan of Teela from the original 80s He-Man series, they were calling it He-Man, but I'm just like, the whole series seemed like it was about Teela. Like, He-Man seemed like he was taking a back seat. They even killed He-Man in the first, like, I think it was the first episode where Skeletor, like, stabbed him in the back or some shit. And I'm like, how are we just killing He-Man? Like, they killed, because this was very an adult, mature television series. That's it. They even killed Orko. Like, like, people were dying in this entire series, but when it finished, because I forgot all about it. Like, I forgot in the end when the first two parts were finished, it ended with Skeletor being taken over by Mother Box, and then the Horde symbol appeared over, over Mother Box's head, which now brings us to, I guess, part 3, the new series, and this got me very excited. There's one particular reason why I'm excited about this, and as you can clearly see, I'm just like, because we know this whole show was like directed and produced by Kevin Smith, and I swear he better pull the trigger on this. But in this particular series, in this part 3 adaptation, because we saw that Teela, she became the new sorceress. The black girl whose name I forgot, she became the new Man-at-Arms. Orko ended up staying, like Evelyn pulled him out of the abyss, and then Evelyn, she even got redemption, and now she's just Lynn because she doesn't want to be evil anymore. So, she's off doing her thing. Everybody's doing their thing. He-Man's still doing his thing. But Skeletor now, he's been taken over by the power of Mother Box, and they're trying to infiltrate, like the castle so they can take over Eternia. Now, this was weird because Kevin Smith did the one thing I didn't think I would like, or the one thing I didn't think I would enjoy until I actually saw it. They gave Skeletor a backstory, because in this one, it tells you the story of, like, He-Man's dad, King Randolph, and we find out that the king, he had an older brother. He was a half brother, but he was still an older brother. And because he was a half brother, they were saying that you could never have the throne because you're not true blood, you're not full blood, which was weird because King Randor eventually ended up marrying He-Man's mother, who was an Earthling. They even brought that up in the series too, but they were saying that like he wasn't like full blood because his blood came from somewhere else, and they ended up letting Randall like run the kingdom instead, and they sent his brother back to the kingdom, I guess, where the other half of his DNA is from. So then we find out later on in the series that Skeletor ended up dressing up as the uncle, because in this particular series, King Randor, he died. So in the opening sequence, He-Man, the Masters of the Universe, Teela, everybody, even the King, Man-at-Arms, the new Man-at-Arms, the King, they were fighting bad guys. They were taking down bad guys. And the King was just like, he wanted one last hurrah by his son's side, so he can just fight, fight crime or whatever, because he knew that he was dying. And then after they fought crime and they saved the day, his father was on his deathbed. Now, Preternia, which was the place where Adam went when they killed him in the first two parts, Preternia is basically heaven for the heroes of Eternia. It's a place where their souls can go to rest, just like, what is it, Valhalla on in the Thor movies. It's a place where the souls of champions can go to rest, like champions, rulers, people, etc. And at the end of the second part 2, they ended up destroying Preternia. So when King Randall died, his spirit didn't have anywhere to go. So Teela's whole thing was she was trying to bring Preternia. She was going to use the power of the Sorceress and the power of Grayskull to bring Preternia back, so King Randall will have a place for his soul to go to. But they said that Preternia was created by like 3 or 4 different staffs from 4 different magical kingdoms. So Teela had to find those staffs and find the power in order to bring back Preternia. And this was cool too because Skeletor had a staff. Like in the cartoon, he always had that staff. They gave the Sorceress had a staff, like she had a staff. And then there was another staff that they brought up that was being, held by a dragon. they made those staffs like into important magical pieces. Like these staffs were like if one person wields all three staffs, they could have the power to bring back Paternia. So that's what Tila did. She went to go look for the staffs. Evelyn ended up showing up, and then she ended up helping her. The two of them together came together to bring the power together. And when they found all the staffs and brought all the staffs together, it transformed Tila into a different looking person because now she has like multiple power flowing through her veins. Meanwhile, now the king is dead, and Adam, he's supposed to take over as the king, but he doesn't want to take over as the king because he still wants to be He-Man. And his dad told him, you can't be both champion and ruler. I don't know why, but that's what his daddy told him. So Skeletor shows up, disguised as the uncle, the long-lost uncle, and then he tells him, he was just like, yes, like I was the rightful ruler, but, your grandfather, said that someone like me couldn't rule. So Adam used that as his get-out-of-jail-free card to not be the king, and he just passed the crown over to the uncle, which he basically gave the power of Eternia over to Skeletor. Now, when he had the power, so now Skeletor, he's the king of Eternia. Adam's still being He-Man. Skeletor goes back to Mother Box, and then we get the reveal of Hordak. And once Hordak showed up, I was like, okay, here we go. Here we go. Because now that you done mentioned Hordak, we know who else is behind this curtain. So Hordak shows up, and then come to find out, Hordak and Mother Box together, they accidentally unlocked memories from Skeletor. Come to find out, Skeletor actually is the uncle. Because when the uncle got banished, back to wherever his other half of his people were, Hordak found him and took him under his wing. Because remember, in the traditional He-Man and She-Ra lore, Hordak was always the technical guy. Hordak was able to turn himself into rockets, turn himself into guns. He could transport his arm into a cannon. They did that in this series too. There were points where Hordak was fighting where he turned himself into a rocket ship, and I was like, kudos to them for doing that. But Skeletor was always the magic person. Like he was the one that used the staff and used the power of magic and everything. But Skeletor was always Hordak's pupil, because in the He-Man and She-Ra movie, they tell the story about how Skeletor was Hordak's pupil. And this is exactly what happened. The half-brother, who turned out to be Skeletor, they showed him training with Hordak. This is before he had the skull face, when he looked like a regular person. They showed him training with Hordak taking him under his wing, and then after Hordak was just like, there's no more I can teach you, my pupil, he gave him the purple staff, which burnt his face off and gave him the skeleton face, and that's how he became Skeletor. And I was like, wow, this is fucking awesome. But the memory of who he used to be kept echoing in his head while, because again, he had, like, Hordak also took his memory, so he forgot that he actually used to be the uncle. His memory slowly started coming back, and, and his inner voice was telling him, we don't need Hordak, we don't need Mother Box, we're the rightful rulers of Eternia, we're supposed to sit on the throne, blah, blah, blah. And he got into his ear. So when he got into his ear, Skeletor killed the Mother Box. Then he went up and fought Hordak. He bust that ass on Hordak, and then he killed Hordak. And then when he killed Hordak, Skeletor was just like, now that I have both the technology, and the magic, I'm gonna bring them both together as one. And now I'm gonna take over Eternia. I'm gonna take over Hordak's fleet, because Hordak brought his fleet and everything. And they showed Hordak villains. They showed She-Ra villains. They showed the guy with the bug eyes, like the scorpion person. But here's the thing. Here's the catch. I noticed that when they showed the She-Ra villains from the She-Ra TV series, because they showed, from the old He-Man series, they showed old He-Man villains, they showed He-Man, alliances and He-Man heroes. But when they were showing the villains on Hordak's side from the She-Ra TV series, they didn't show any of the women. There was no Catra. There was no Shadow Weaver. And I was just like, there's also a certain Force Captain I don't see either. Every single person that they showed on Hordak's side, they were all men. And I was just like, well, that's weird, because Hordak was supposed to have women on his team as well. I was like, where's Castaspella? And all these people. But anyway, so Hordak is dead. Skeletor's taken over. Orko, along with some blacksmith, they used magic and technology together to enhance the Sword of Power. He-Man takes the sword, he has the power, he turns himself into He-Man, and because he amplified the sword, he was able to turn into like a bigger, cooler, stronger He-Man. He fought up against Skeletor. Teela shows up, she's able to get control of the power, and then she ended up, using the magic to not only free the people of Eternia, but to also bring back Preternia, so the fallen soldiers and the fallen souls have a place to go. while she's in the sky doing that, He-Man is fighting Skeletor. And then this was funny because there was a moment where Skeletor was just like, you're not going to defeat me, He-Man. He was like, I'm going to defeat you. I'm going to defeat your followers. And whatever the hell she's doing up there, I started dying. Mark Hamill, like this man is the GOAT. He's the GOAT. So, but in the end, He-Man prevails. They defeat Skeletor. And actually, not only did he defeat Skeletor, He-Man was able to extract the power from Skeletor, and he turned him back into his uncle. So Skeletor technically is gone. He's back to who he used to be, which was, He-Man's uncle. They threw him in jail, but then when they threw him in jail and he looked at himself in the mirror, although he looks the way he used to look before he became Skeletor, he still sees himself as Skeletor when he looks at himself in the mirror. So that's going to be a thing. That's going to be a thing going forward. So then everything is safe. Everybody's safe. Eva Lynn ended up getting offered a seat at a council of people that it was almost like the Green Lantern Corps, only they wear like these weird helmets. So Eva Lynn finally got her redemption. They restored Preternia. Like all the fallen soldiers got to go to their afterlife, like to their happy place. His dad showed up one last time and helped his son fight to save, he turned and saved Skeletor. So that was pretty cool. So then Randolph went off to the afterlife along with everybody else. That was dope. I said everything's cool, everything's fine. He-Man and Teela are together again, and Eternia is safe. And then Adam decided that they should no longer have a Kingsley ship, like they shouldn't have kings or queens anymore. He decided to free the people and become an independent democracy where they can vote on who they want to lead. So the black chick said she's gonna run to become president, and then He-Man and Teela ended up moving into Castle Grayskull, which was pretty cool. And then I said now they're gonna be together, and then they were just like, oh, whatever awaits us, and blah blah blah, we'll all be for it, and everything seemed like it was okay and it was cool. And then we get an end credit scene. When we get the end credit scene, there's a person who took Hordak's body and put Hordak's body in a healing chamber. This person said Horde Prime is going to fix you to get you back out there, to continue to rule. And then the person took their helmet off and said, we're also going to get revenge on Skeletor and this so-called He-Man. And when the person took the helmet off, it was clearly a woman's voice who said that, who was wearing a soldier's uniform, almost looked like a captain, because in the beginning, once I realized it was a woman and they had rescued Hordak, I was just like, okay, is this Shadow Weaver? But then I thought about it. Shadow Weaver, because they didn't show the person's face. All you heard was the woman's voice, but you never heard her face. First of all, Shadow Weaver is supposed to have a raspier voice than that, but Shadow Weaver's not really a secret. Like that's not like a, oh my God, oh shit moment. Like you could have shown Shadow Weaver and it wouldn't have been a big deal. They purposely went out of their way to hide this person's face so you couldn't see who the person was. And when the person took off the helmet and said, we're also going to go after this so-called He-Man, I almost jumped out of my seat because I said, that's Force Captain Adora. And I swear to God, Kevin Smith, if that is not, when part 4 to this shit comes out, if that is not Force Captain Adora, I'm going to tweet you unceremoniously, because She-Ra is the one thing missing from this entire series. I need me some She-Ra. I need the honor of Grayskull. And for the love of God, thank you for tuning in. I don't know how they're going to tie it into them being twin brother and sister. I don't know if they're going to be brother and sister, but you don't bring in Hordak. Like, you don't tease the Horde. You don't bring in Hordak. You don't have a woman dressed in a captain's uniform, not showing her face, saying that she's going after He-Man if it turns out that it's not going to be Adora. There was even a moment where before Randolph died, he was talking to his wife and he was talking to Adam, and then he said, I lived a great life, and within that great life, I've lost friends, I've lost family, and I even lost my own brother. And I was like, why would you not put your brother in the same category as family? I was like, who is this alleged family that you lost? Maybe they're talking about Adora, because remember, in the He-Man and She-Ra series, Adam and Adora were separated by Hordak when they were both babies, and they kept the lie alive, and they tried to pretend like Adora never existed until the sorceress found out what planet she was on, and then He-Man saved her and then brought her back. So I'm excited for this now, because I like the He-Man Masters of the Universe series before, but now if we're gonna get Force Captain Adora in part 4, I'm down for this shit. I'm waiting for some She-Ra action, because the She-Ra series that they had on Netflix, it was cool. It did have a good storyline. I enjoyed the princesses of power. I liked that they had the different princesses, but the drawing style I wasn't a fan of the drawing style, and I didn't like the fact that they made them all children. This is an adult series. Like, people are dying here. Like, they're stabbing people in the chest with swords. There's blood, there's violence, there's gore. And if we can bring She-Ra into this mix and we can have a standoff between Adam and Adora, I'm here for it, dog. Share your questions, comments, and concerns. Let the She-Ra campaign begin, y'all. Let me know what you thought about the Masters of the Universe Revelation. Are you happy? Are you excited about it? Do you agree with me that we're going to get Force Captain Adora? How soon do we get She-Ra in the mix? And we'll continue to talk about it. Check me out on X and or Instagram. Also, thank you, everybody, because I hit the 500 mark, 500 subscribers, and I was going to make a video for it, and I forgot. I got caught up doing a bunch of other things, but for the love of God, we're at 502 subscribers. Thank you. Like, I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. We're halfway there to 1,000, and we can only go up more from here. So let's keep it climbing. Let's keep doing these reviews. Let's continue to build a community where we can respectfully talk about, share our questions, comments, and concerns, and we can discuss our favorite TV shows, our favorite movies, our favorite characters, and we can all have a good time and celebrate this wonderful time that we're in with the resurrection of good, wholesome television. So that was it, guys. So like I said, so until next time for another What to Watch series, I say the yay for He-Man Masters of the Universe. Go back and watch the first 2 parts and then watch the 3rd part. Let's get ready for the Princess of Power, and we're out this bitch.